condition, we are not able to go to our schools for having classes. That is the main motive of starting a YouTube channel like this. We are taking classes in Alibro EduSoft YouTube channel. Hope you enjoy our classes. Dear students, our today's video is from 8th Standard Ncert Social Studies Part 1 textbooks, first chapter, and its name is How, When and Where. The main aim of this chapter is to give an introduction or to ignite minds of students to give an idea, a good outline about history. And why to study is history and why to understand history. That is the main motive of giving a lesson like this as a first chapter. Earlier, study of history was like only memorizing dates, but now the concept has changed to another step. Now, history is something which gives idea about what had happened in the past, and it gives a link or connection between before and after. That is what you call history. Just give an example. When you go to a tea stall, we will be thinking like, when was the first time when people start to drink tea? Or the time when who introduced or who discovered tea? Like that, when you think about aeroplanes, earlier it was only for elite classes. But now condition had changed and it is common or easy available for each and every common people in our country. When you think about train also, we will be thinking like, when was the real time we start using trains? But now we know each and every step-by-step process of how introduction of these things came into existence. Let me go to Robert Clive, the first Governor General of Bengal. He had a very broad perspective. He asked Reynolds to give or make an outline of Hindustan's map. That was having only one motive, to conquer different areas of our country. Perspective of British historians and Indian historians are entirely different. Previously, study of history is something like regarding a king and when was he crowned and when he did married and when he got died and like that. Earlier history was something like regarding kings and all, but the now perspective changed, and today study of history is like studying about people, their cultures, their livelihood and what they make and how cultures evolved and what are the evolutions that happened in the past and right now. For example, history of British India is just regarding what had happened in the British period. That was completely out of British perspective. History of British India by the British historians were something like which begins with the first Governor General of British India, that is Warren Hastings, to the last Viceroy of British India, that is Mountbatten. Each and every chapters of British Indian history was completely regarding these Governor Generals like Warren Hastings, Wellesley, William Bentinck, Mountbatten, Lytton, Ripon, etc. All the chapters were completely regarding what all things they have done to the Indian society of those times and all. When we actually periodize, let me go to 1817, a Scottish economist and a Britisher, he in his book History of British Indian History subdivided Indian history of that time into three parts. That was Hindu period, Muslim period and British period. In his book, he described the period of Hindu and Muslim period as the period of religious intolerance, atrocities, superstitions, caste differences, etc. He completely said that those periods were very difficult for common men. In his book, he said about British period was a period of civilizations, introduction of new institutions, laws and all. He completely glorified British period. The real life of common men were very tough during that time. Later on, divisions in Indian history was subdivided into ancient, medieval and modern period. Modern period was the time when the science, technologies, liberty, equality, fraternity, everything were there. That what we study in Constitution. But the period of medieval history was not having any sorts of elements of modern history. Let me give you an idea about colonial period. That is what British period is. In that time, there was no liberty, equality, fraternity like that we had in modern Indian history. Each and everything, including economic, political, agricultural, each and everything on that society was completely under the control of British power. Let me explain colonization. Colonization is something which is the subjugation of one country to another country. That leads to political, economic and cultural changes in the society there existed. British perspective of history and Indian perspective of history was completely different. Different individuals had different perspective about history. There was very good key elements that Britishers introduced in the Indian history. First one is they had official records of each and everything happened in the society over that time. They had official records in notings, write-ups, etc. And the second one is each and every offices they had were having separate official record room. That made historians came afterwards to understand what had happened during those time. And the third one is they started museums. They completely appreciated arts during that time. Early 19th century, calligraphic artists were there and they have completely written in a very good calligraphic script and written and recorded each and everything. And later 19th centuries, printing started and they started recording each and everything in books, manuscripts, etc. Later on, James Prinsep, he was a prominent governor during that time. He made surveying compulsory. He started land surveying in different manners. Zoological survey, botanical survey, archaeological survey, anthropological survey, forest surveys, etc. And census were taken once in every 10 years. And also they have started revenue maps to collect taxes. All these were under British perspective. Indian common people were not having any rights to interfere into this. The views of Indian common people were not given in any of the scripts they have given. The views of Indian common people were given by the local newspapers they had over that time. And they were local leaders and they started mass movements giving description or making people aware of what is happening in those society. What were the atrocities common people faced during those time, tax collection issues and non-quality foods they got during that time. This chapter gives you a brief idea of how colonization period arose and how Indian national movement gained momentum and later on led to independence of our country. Hope you understood today's class. This is end of today's session. If you have any doubts, please contact to this email ID. Thank you.